Revelation chapter number 11. Now, let me say this by way of introduction. Chapter 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all going to deal with this last 3.5 years of the tribulation. The tribulation in total is 7 years. 7 years of the tribulation. You get that by looking at Daniel 9:27. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, the nation of Israel, and so on and so forth. So that's where you get the 7 years. It's divided into half. So Revelation 7, we talked about the two witnesses last time we were together. Those two witnesses show up in the middle of the tribulation and go all the way to the end. Revelation 12, we're going to talk about that tonight, starts here in the middle, goes all the way to the end. 13, that'll be next, maybe not next Wednesday night, but the next time, the last half, as it deals with the Antichrist. So, what John does for us, obviously, again, for some of you that are new, a lot of people think Revelation is in the consecutive order, in a chronological order. That's not always the case. It's almost like John can't tell you everything that's going on in one chapter. So, what he does, in chapter number 11, he tells you about the two witnesses and their activity the last 3.5 years. Then he goes to chapter 12, I'm going to tell you what Israel is doing the last half of the tribulation. Then 13 is the number of rebellion. Wouldn't you know, you'd have the Antichrist. I'm going to tell you what he's doing this is the last half of the tribulation. And then 14, I'm going to tell you what Jesus Christ and the 144,000 Jews are doing the last half of the tribulation. So, that's what he's doing. It's almost like when you read 11, you go all the way to the end, and then you come back, Revelation 12, go through again, come back, 13, come back, 14, and go through. See? So sometimes a lot of people look at Revelation and are like, oh, it's so confusing. Well, if you get it in your mind that everything's not in chronological order, and you piece it all together like it's supposed to be, it works out better. All right, so look at Revelation chapter number 12, and let's look at verse number 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. She brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now, a score is 20. So if you have 1,000, 1,203 score. A score is 20, so 3 score is 20, 40, 60. So you got 1,260 days. Now, if you don't know how long that is, 1,260 days is 3.5 years. Okay? That's how I know what I just told you in the introduction. We're dealing with this woman giving a child. This dragon is trying to devour that child, and she flees into the wilderness so what is Israel going to be doing? The last half of the tribulation, they're going to be fleeing into the wilderness, running from this red dragon for 1,260 days, 3.5 years. All right, look at verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was there found place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Now I'm going to stop right there. That's enough reading. Let me get all of that process, and then we'll read 11 through 17 here in just a few minutes. Now, let's start out. This is what we've got. We've got 7 different personages, people, that we're going to talk about. Number 1, we're going to talk about who that woman is in verse number 1. Number 2, we're going to talk about who the great red dragon is. You probably already know who that is. Number 3, we're probably going to talk about who that man-child is. You already probably know who that is. 4, Michael the archangel. You know who that is. Number 5 is the remnant. The remnant of the nation of Israel. Number 6, beast of the sea. And in number 7, the beast of the earth. There's 7 of them found in chapter number 12. Now, let's look at verse 1 again. I'm going to read verse 1 and 2, and it will comment. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, and she being with child cried, travailing in birth, pain to be delivered. Okay? So, we're going to look at these first 2 verses. We've got a woman, we've got a man-child, and this woman is obviously pregnant, fixing to give birth to a child. Okay? At quick glance, we're looking at Satan's plan for the nation of Israel. So, this woman, who is she? Some people say, well, that's got to be the Mother Mary. Because a lot of times when you see, especially in Catholic themes, you'll see the Mother Mary, and she's got a halo around her head. It's like, because what the Bible says, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon about her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So, and a lot of people say, well, that's got to be Mary. Well, that might be a good guess, but that's not who the woman is. So, if it's not Mary, then it's got to be somebody else. Now, I've heard people say, well, it's the church. It's the church. Well, that's not the church. Because the church is gone here. Amen. So it can't be the church. So whoever this is running into the wilderness, running away from this dragon, the devil, Lucifer, Satan. So, and it can't be Mary, because Mary in the tribulation doesn't show up and run into the wilderness to hide from this dragon. So we know it's not her. We know it's not the church. So to get Bible interpretation, this is what you do. You compare Scripture with Scripture. So if you want to know who that woman is, let's go, let me see if I got it on here for you. If you want to turn to Genesis 37, this is where it's found. Genesis 37. I put them on the screen to save a little time. But in Genesis 37 is where this interpretation is found. Do y'all remember the story of Joseph and the coat of many colors? Joseph had the coat of many colors on, and his brothers, there was 12 boys. And his 11 brothers hated him because his daddy favored Joseph more than the rest of them. Remember that? Joseph has this dream, and he dreams, verse 9, and he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, watch, the sun, and the moon, and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Joseph says, I had this dream last night. Brothers, all you brothers are older than me, and my mama and my daddy. Y'all all going to bow down to me one day. Well, no wonder they threw him in the pit. Sometimes when God gives you a dream, you might want to keep it to yourself and don't tell everybody. So Joseph just pipes up and says, I saw the sun, which is what? His daddy. The moon was his mother, Rachel. So his daddy was Isaac, Rachel, and then the 11 stars are his brothers. And all of y'all bowed down to me and gave obedience to me. Well, don't you know? And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? Now, you're saying, what in the world? Are you talking about how does this have anything to do with this woman over here in Revelation number 12, giving birth to a man-child, sun, moon, 12 stars, and all that kind of thing? Watch. Y'all remember Joseph had that dream. His brothers didn't like him. He had this stupid dream, and he had this coat of many colors, and he's prancing all around, and, Daddy likes me better than you. And his 11 brothers got together, threw him in the pit, tried to get rid of him, right? Sold him into slavery. And then many years later, Joseph is second in command under Pharaoh. Well, there's a famine in the land for 7 years. There's a famine in the land for 7 years, so his brothers and mama and daddy have to come to Egypt to get food. They come before Joseph and don't realize it's Joseph. They don't recognize him because his brothers told mom and daddy he's dead. He got killed by animals or something. Well, guess what his whole family does? The dream is true. He said, God gave me that dream, and one of these days y'all going to bow down before me. Well, it come to pass. Well, watch this. You say, what's that got to do with anything? Joseph is a picture of Jesus. Israel crucified Jesus. Threw him in the pit. Sold him into slavery. Jesus rises to power as the king. Israel goes through 7 years of famine, just like they did in the Old Testament, and they have to go see the king to get food. When they go to the king and get food, they don't recognize him as Jesus. And they bow down. And even in the story of Joseph, y'all remember this part? I wish I could read the whole story to you. Joseph makes all the Egyptians leave the room. And he reveals himself to his brethren. And they say, they start hugging and all of this kind of stuff. Hey, this is my brother, What are they going to do to Jesus? They're going to bow down. The whole nation of Israel will bow down at Jesus when he reveals himself to them. So, you go back to Revelation chapter number 12, and we find out that this woman that gives birth to this man-child is the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel gives birth to Jesus Christ, and it's all found in Genesis chapter 37 there. We just showed you. So we've got the nation of Israel giving birth. Now, you say, well, how do you know the nation of Israel is a better interpretation than Mary? Because I know Israel runs into the wilderness to try to escape the Antichrist. Mary don't. Israel does. Okay? So Israel gives birth to. Where did Jesus come from? What nationality is he? He came from the nation of Israel. All right? So, we've got verse 2. And she, Israel, being with child, cried, travailing in pain, in birth, and pain to be delivered. Now watch verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon. Guess who that is? That's Satan, Lucifer. 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. All right. Do y'all remember? when Jesus was born? Herod made a decree, kill all the little boy babies 2 years and under. Herod is a picture and a type of the Antichrist, sitting there waiting for that baby to be born so he can devour that child and get rid of the man-child, Jesus Christ. He's trying to do that. So, this is what this red dragon is doing. This red dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're reading that in the Bible and you're going, that's fictitious and that ain't true and there ain't no way that's a 7-headed dragon and there ain't no way that's even true. But if you saw it on the Discovery Channel, you'd be like, man, that's real. Let me ask y'all something else. Do y'all actually believe man has been to the moon? How do you know? They showed you something on television. You saw some guy get off on them. How do you know that's true? You just believe it. But it's funny how we believe anything we see on television. But if we read in the Bible, that's hard to believe. Isn't that odd? How we have trouble believing the Bible, but we'll believe everything we see on television. Isn't that odd? Now, this red dragon, he's got 7 heads, and he's got 10 horns. And I'm going to tell you who those 7 heads are here in just a second. But notice his tail, this dragon's tail, drew a third part of the stars from heaven and did cast them to the earth. Now, if you remember, Satan, his name was Lucifer. He used to be in heaven before he fell. He used to be the anointed cherub that covered the throne. When he got kicked out of heaven, he took a third of the angels with him. So when that verse is talking about when he drew his tail, he took a third of the stars of heaven. You say stars, you're calling them angels. I ain't got time to go over all that again. But isn't it odd? Los Angeles, the city of angels, that's where all the stars of Hollywood live. Isn't that odd? That's odd that we call it Hollywood. That's where the stars are. They call it Los Angeles, the city of angels. In the Bible, when it refers to angels, it talks about stars. You want another proof? Okay. Job 38. When the morning stars sang together and the sons of God shouted for joy. When God created the whole world, the morning stars sang together. Who are they? Angels. Okay. So, when this dragon got kicked out of heaven, he took a third of the angels with him, and that's what that verse is talking about. Now, you want to know who the 7 heads are. Here are the 7 heads of the 7 kings. The first one is Nimrod. It's found in Genesis chapter 10. He was the king of Babylon. It's found in Genesis chapter 10. The next one is Pharaoh. We know, all remember Pharaoh. He was the king of Egypt. There was another fellow by the name of Sennacherib. Sennacherib was the king of Assyria. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. Darius was the king of Persia. And all these kingdoms, give you for instance, Pharaoh was in power there in Egypt. Sennacherib overcame him. He became the king of Assyria. Nebuchadnezzar overcame them. He became the head honcho there for a while. And then the Medes and the Persians under Darius overthrew Nebuchadnezzar, took over, and then Alexander the Great whooped Darius and took over. And then after Alexander the Great, Caesar of Rome. Caesar was the king when Jesus walked this earth. Remember? Amen. They said, crucify Jesus. And they said, Pilate said, well, this is your king. And they said, we have no king but Caesar. So there's your 7 kings, the 7 heads of that dragon. Now, you say, all of these, Satan is the god of this world. 2 Corinthians 4:4 is what it says. Now, maybe you thought, 2 Corinthians 4:4, Satan is the god of this world. He controls this whole thing through kings. He controlled through Nimrod, Pharaoh, Sennacherib, Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, Alexander the Great, and Caesar. And those are the 7 heads of this dragon, of how Lucifer. Now, well, I'm not going to tell you that either. I will say this. Rome was in power when Jesus came the first time. Rome will be in power when he comes the second time. The Roman Empire will resurrect over there in the Middle East, and they will resurrect and become a superpower in the tribulation period, and they will be in power. They were in power when he comes the second time, and the Romans crucified him, and the Romans will be in power the second time, but they won't crucify him. Amen. When he comes back this time, it's not going to be like this time. When he comes this time, there won't be anybody left. Unless you're on his side. Yeah. And you better be on the right side. Right. Because he ain't taking names this time. And they won't curse him this time. And they won't crucify him this time. But they will say, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. To the glory of God the Father. Now, so there we have verse 3 and 4. Now let's look at verse 5. Verse 5. Well, hey, pause. Some people, it bothers them when the Bible says something about a dragon, and in our minds we're going, oh, there's no such thing as a dragon. Well, how do you know? How do you know there's no such thing as a dragon? The Bible says there is. Well, I just never seen one. Well, I mean, have you ever seen a dinosaur? How do you know there was one? You ever seen one? So if the Bible says there's a dragon, now, I'll show you in the Bible a description of this great dragon. And let me think. Let's see if it's. Here's one. It's found in Psalms 74, verse 14. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces. The heads of Leviathan. That dragon in Revelation chapter 12 has 7 heads. Psalm 74 says Leviathan, they breaketh his heads. The heads of Leviathan. Isaiah 27. In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. And that's up. Now, if you want to read a whole chapter about Leviathan, I don't have time to read it for you or read it to you tonight, but it's Job 41 talks about Leviathan. And Leviathan, you say, who is it? That's the devil, the red dragon, and it describes him very vividly. Anyway, all right. Now, let's go back and look at Revelation 12, and let's look at verse number 5. And she, Israel, brought forth a man-child, Jesus. How do you know it's Jesus? What's he going to do? Who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron? Well, that's what he's going to do. Rule all nations with a rod of iron. And notice what else. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. When did that happen? And this man-child, Acts chapter number 1, was caught up. Y'all remember the ascension of Jesus Christ? This man-child was caught up unto God and to his throne. But this man-child is coming to rule and reign with a rod of iron. That's what that verse is talking about. Verse 6. And the woman fled, Israel fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. That's 1,260 days. All right. Now, Israel is going, all right, does this sound familiar? Israel is going to have to go and hide in the wilderness. Y'all do realize God's people, the nation of Israel, every nation hates them over there. Every nation hates them. So you put the Antichrist in the mix of things, and the Antichrist, which is the dragon, is going to do its best to get rid of the nation of Israel and wipe them off the face of the map. That's what they've been trying to do. That old, what was his name? Ahmadinejad, or whatever his name was. He said, I want to just wipe them off the face of the map. The nation of Israel. So, in the tribulation, they're going to have to run into the wilderness to hide out. And the Bible says when they go into the wilderness and hide out, they should be fed. That they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now, listen, history always repeats itself. Ready? Y'all remember Moses and the nation of Israel? They get out of the Egyptian bondage. They go into the wilderness, and they're fed by manna from heaven. Amen. It's going to happen again. They'll be fed from manna from heaven for these 1,260 days, a place prepared for God. It's already happened. And guess what? Talking about this dragon pursuing them. You remember Pharaoh pursued the nation of Israel, tried to go into the wilderness, and God comes down, destroys Pharaoh and all of his army from getting the nation of Israel. It's going to happen again. This dragon going to push them in, or make them flee to the wilderness. They're fed by God from manna from heaven. God will destroy Pharaoh, the Antichrist, whatever you want to call it, in the tribulation period. It's like history is going to repeat itself. All right. Now look at verse, verse number 7. Verse number 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Now, let me say this. This is not in heaven where God is. Somebody say, well, there's war in heaven. Well, that can't be heaven. There's war up there. There are 3 heavens. I've explained this. You say, I don't believe there's 3 heavens. Well, there's 3 heavens. If you don't believe that, you'd have to disagree with the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, I knew a man above 14 years, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell, only God knoweth, who was caught up to the 3rd heaven. Amen. If there's a 3rd heaven, there's a 2nd one, and if there's a 1st one. I explained it to you. The 1st heaven is where the birds fly. That's the atmosphere, right above us. The 2nd heaven is where the sun, moon, and stars are. It's what we call outer space. The 3rd heaven is where God is. That's where heaven, the heaven we're going to is. So when it says there was war in heaven, we're talking about a war that goes on in outer space. Not the 3rd heaven, the 2nd heaven. There's a 2nd heaven, outer space. Did you know that... Anyway, that's wild. But this dragon and his angels, which are, I think I've explained this before, but the dragon and his angel are called fallen angels. They're called demons. They're called evil spirits. That's what they are. And they used to be angels, but they're what called fallen angels. I don't want to get into a long, drawn-out deal on this, but a lot of people, you know, they say, well, watch this show, and this house, and there's haunted, and they get these hidden cameras, and it's dark, and they see something moving over here in the closet, and they hear all this stuff, and it must be Grandma, or Aunt Susie, and Aunt Susie's in the bedroom, and I can promise you it ain't Aunt Susie, and it ain't Grandma. It's them evil spirits and the demons of hell. That's what it is. You say, how you know? How you know it ain't Grandma? Because the Bible says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. Amen. So if you're saved, you go up. If you don't, you go down. Right. You're not haunting nothing until your murder gets solved. Well, her spirit's lingering around till they solve her murder. No, that's dumb. That don't even mean in the Bible. Nobody, no spirit, no Casper the Friendly Ghost is haunting houses waiting till a murder to be solved so their spirit can be released. That's TV. Get in the Bible. Cut the TV off, get in the Bible. These spirits, you say, you don't believe in haunting? Oh yeah, I believe in them. Yes, I do. Evil spirits? Yes. That's what's in there. You better leave them alone. Leave them alone. You say, preacher, I thought you saved. I am. But I ain't messing with them. I sure ain't. You know, all these preachers on TV, they say, boy, you know, put me in a room full of them, I'll rebuke you. You better be careful. You might be getting a little too big for your britches. You know. Let me at the devil. You better be careful. By saying all that. I ain't have that. I ain't stirred him up. He's stirred up enough. I have to fight that dude all the time. I sure ain't gonna stir him up no more. Anyway. Revelation chapter 12, where were we? Oh, there was a war in heaven. And Michael the archangel, and his angels, that's the good guys, fought against the dragon, that's the bad guys, and the dragon fought and his angels, that's the bad guys, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So, in the middle of the tribulation period, all right, right here, you've got a war that's going on right here in the heavens. Michael the archangel is fighting the devil and his angels. Michael prevails and whoops Lucifer. Lucifer is cast down to heaven, or out of heaven, onto the earth with all of his angels, bad angels, evil spirits. And they come, and this is where that dragon comes down and tries to prevent the nation of Israel, pushes them into the wilderness and torments them for 1,260 days. Now, you say, man, that's preacher, that's far out. Man, that's hard to believe. Well, let me ask y'all this. How many movies and television shows have y'all seen on television to where there's an invasion from outer space upon this earth, and we go pay good money to go watch a movie called Aliens or whatever, and the movie goes, these people down on earth, and the movie goes, there's an invasion from outer space, and we're trying to stop, from destroying the earth, and we're going, oh man, I wonder if that could happen. But you read it in the Bible and you go, preacher, that sounds silly. There's going to be an invasion from outer space. You do not think it's odd that President Trump here just some time ago is trying to put together a space force. True. Space Force. You've got Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Marines, whoever. And now you've got another one added to all those. It's called the Space Force. Look at me like I've lost my mind. Why? Because there's coming a war in heaven.
Amen.
Right. Not where God is. I'm talking about in the outer space. I'm telling y'all, it's coming to a city near you. You better get ready. I ain't the crazy one. Anyway, that's what's coming. Oh, let's see. Now, look at verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of the brethren, that's Lucifer, is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Look at verse 11. And they, Israel, overcame him, devil, by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. All right. This is how you overcome, well, in the tribulation. If you ain't planning on accepting Jesus Christ your personal Savior, and you plan on trying to make it through the 7 years of tribulation, I feel sorry for you.
Amen.
It sure is a whole lot easier just to get saved right here.
Amen.
Just accept Christ as your personal Savior and be done with it. Because you're not going to make it through here. And so the nation of Israel, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony. We're talking about this remnant of Israel that don't take the mark of the beast, that try to hide out and flee to the mountains, be fed by the manna from heaven. God's going to protect and take care of them. And it says, the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony, and love not their lives unto the death. The death. It's not just love their lives to death. It's to the death. A specific death. And in the tribulation period, that's your head getting cut off.
Amen.
That's what we call a martyr in the tribulation period. Now, let's look. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell therein. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
Amen.
He don't have 3.5 years, and you think the devil is bad now and tormenting you now? You just wait till 3.5. He got 3.5 years to get whatever he needs to get done. I'm glad I'm leaving out of here right here.
That's right.
Now, all right, look at 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman, Israel, which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished, watch, for a time, that's 1. And times, that's 2. So 2 plus 1 is what? 3? And a half a time, that's 3.5. Y'all see that? Yeah. From the face of the serpent. So they're going to be nourished and persecuted by this devil for 3.5 years. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. Now, let me pause and look at verse 14. And the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. Let me finish reading. And that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place. Now, this is not uncommon. Y'all remember in Deuteronomy 32, nation of Israel. As an eagle stirreth up her nest, flutteth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. It's talking about the nation of Israel. Now, you can take this a lot of different ways. I've heard a lot of different people say that these two, the wings of an eagle, that's America. And in the tribulation period, America helps the nation of Israel hide out from the Antichrist. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Don't have any idea. You have an eagle. Our symbol is the eagle. Don't know. It would be nice to know that America would help. I don't know. Y'all can have your own interpretation about that because I don't know. I do know that I've even heard the two wings of an eagle. I think there's some other guys that teach that that these are airplanes, and the nation of Israel gets on these airplanes and hides out, and these airplanes take them to wherever they're going to hide them out. Look up the sky, two wings of an eagle. I don't know. You can make your own mind up about that. All I know is I ain't going to be here.
Amen.
I'm going to be watching it from my TV in my mansion, getting reports about what's going on. You don't want to be watching from down here firsthand.
Right.
You want to be up here. Amen. You sure don't want to be down here in the midst of it. Now, whatever this serpent's trying to do, this serpent's trying to kill off. And what it does, the serpent, verse 15, cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away from it. Does that sound familiar to anybody? History repeats itself. Pharaoh, they come up on the Red Sea. They can't go nowhere. God parts the Red Sea, and the nation of Israel walks across on dry ground. Pharaoh's army comes in, and guess what? The flood carries them away.
Yeah.
What happens here? The earth opens up, swallows up that water, and protects the nation of Israel, and keeps them from being carried away by the flood. Same thing. Old Testament. It's going to happen again. Now, verse 17, the last verse. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. When he, I don't know if y'all remember, I just watched this at my mama's house last night. We was flipping through the TV, couldn't find nothing. I don't know why I'm telling y'all this, but I run across The Wizard of Oz. And I'm like, man, I hadn't seen that since a long time. I'm going to watch it. So we were watching The Wizard of Oz. And one part in there about The Wizard of Oz is this witch. She's trying to get Dorothy and trying to, capture them and all of this kind of stuff. And they're running through the field. And Glinda, the good witch, comes down and keeps helping her. So this bad witch says, who keeps helping her? I mean, she gets mad. She's like, somebody's helping her. Well, that's what I brought my mind to when I read that verse. The devil is upset because he's like, he keeps helping them. It's like every time the devil's got them cornered up, they get help from another world. That's just amazing. Anyway, I know that probably didn't help you any, but Wizard of Oz, I enjoyed that movie. And it was just good to find a little Bible in there, Anyway, all right. So that has, does Revelation chapter number 12 for us. Any question, comment?